Right now, Steam have a space exploration fest going on, and that means they're listing a whole bunch of space games. A good number of them have been released this week. They're essentially brand new titles, and nearly all the titles in the event do have a pretty steep discount going on. So in this video, I want to look at a few titles that really stand out to me. All of these that I'm going to discuss have been released in 2024. So they're either brand new titles releasing this year, or they were in early access before that and have released fully this year. And again, quite a few of these have come out this week. Starcom Underspace is looking to be one of the most impressive space exploration games, as well as a space combat game that we've seen for a very long time. It's set in a universe filled with diverse star systems, each featuring unique planets, factions, and points of interest. Now, this is essentially, to all intents and purposes, an RPG, and that means the game does have a pretty detailed setting and plot. The game then places a player in a cosmos-spanning organisation where a wormhole transports them to, them and their station to an uncharted region of space. Now, the objective of the game is to explore this new territory, make contact with alien races, and then find a way back to Earth. So obviously, this means there's a whole variety of different gameplay mechanics available that includes exploration, ship customization, research and development, as well as, of course, combat. Now, from an aesthetic point of view, the game is top-down, and that's pretty typical of when it comes to a lot of indie games, but I can't help feeling with Starcom, this is, it's actually very, very nice indeed. This is kind of a few levels above what we see in a typical indie game. So my feeling here is that this is a very pretty game. Also, it is a single player experience, which means you can spend all your time focusing on exploration and interaction with the various environments within the game and all the other factions that are dotted about as well. Now, of course, players can recruit and train crew members. They in turn level up and specialise in various different skills. Skills which can affect gameplay, such as improving success in planetary surveys and of course many other things besides. Players along the way will encounter different factions, and here you can have options to ally yourself with them, trade or engage in combat. Trade and diplomatic interactions then are also a very big part of the game. This one has been around for a while, I do believe in early access, but released fully on the 2nd of September, so yeah, this is now a full release. Moving on to something a little bit more, shall we say, cutesy, we come to a little known galaxy. Now, this is of course reminiscent of Stardew Valley, but it does have a unique sci-fi twist on it. The game places players in the role of a captain in training of a space exploration vessel tasked with uncovering the mysteries of an ancient relic on a newly discovered planet. In terms of gameplay mechanics, we have farming and resource management, as well as combat and a variety of different minigames, and that includes a fishing minigame as well. So this is a single-player experience, again much like Stardew Valley and games of that type, and as to be expected with this genre, you'll spend a lot of time farming as well as interacting with all the other NPCs dotted around. And yeah, that does include building friendships as well as romantic relationships with crew members and other NPCs on all the planets here. It's not all just about farming though and relationships. The game does include exploration as well as quests, so that means there are other objectives to aim for, as well as exploring new planets, gathering resources and upgrading your ship as well. The storyline itself is driven by the discovery of the ancient relic and interactions with the local inhabitants. All in all, this looks like a very relaxing and engaging experience, and whilst this certainly isn't a hardcore space sim, it nonetheless is going to be, it's a whimsical game, and for those of you who like that type of game, this could certainly be worth taking a look at. Something which looks a little bit more traditional in terms of space games is Between the Stars, and this is an open world space battlecruiser, an RPG as well, that combines elements of space combat, role-playing and narrative-driven gameplay. Here, players take control of large battlecruisers instead of small fighters, so that's an interesting take just right off the bat. And combat involves manoeuvring to exploit enemy weaknesses and managing the shields and utilising various weapons like nuclear missiles. Yeah, those are going to go with a pretty big bang, I'd like to expect, as well as plasma bolts. Ships themselves can be customised, and that means you have the options for different loadouts, including weapons and support systems. Players can also assemble a fleet and manage crew members, each with unique skills and levels. Now, there are some role-playing elements here. The game includes text-based choose-your-own-adventure systems where players can make decisions that affect the storyline. Now, obviously, without hands-on experience with this, and I haven't yet had hands-on experience with it, but Over the coming week, this, along with a few other games in this list, is something I do want to try out. But yeah, we'll have to see just how far this role-playing element does go. And, you know, I think story and narrative is something that are missing from a lot of space games, although, of course, we've got things like Starfield, which have very much attempted that. But in terms of narrative, the player assumes the role of a high-ranking officer in a Star Republic, navigating a storyline that involves a war with a terrorist group called the Children of the Sun. Now, obviously, if a game is going to make the story one of the main focuses, if not the main focuses of the game, then that story darn well better be good. We'll have to see how that one actually plays out. Yeah, time will tell on that. If anyone has experience with this one, then do let me know. But yeah, visually, this also looks pretty good. There's also some crew management going on here, as with the other games in the videos so far. Crew members can level up, be assigned various different medals, and make tactical decisions during ship and non-ship combat. So that's a bit about Between the Stars. This one was released back in March, but still a 2024 release. Currently it's sitting at all reviews of mostly positive on Steam, with a score of 77%. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty positive indeed. That does come across as pretty well regarded. Now, in a similar sort of vein to this title, we come to another game called Underspace. Now, I made a video on this earlier on in the year, and the developers claim that this is a spiritual successor to a Freelancer. Yeah, when I played through that, I could certainly see many of the connections, but there is something very different here. It has a unique Lovecraftian twist. This is a case of dotted throughout space, you'll find a whole bunch of different massive monsters locked away within a nebula. Now, players assume the role of a disgraced nobleman who was once a commander of a trade fleet. After falling from grace, the commander was left with a single starfighter and therefore must rebuild their life, taking on various jobs, engaging in space trading and navigating the galaxy. Much like with Freelancer, you can expect a selection of different activities here that includes space combat, exploration, trading, missions, and some other things besides. You can also customize your ships with different weapons, subsystems, and equipment. As for the in-game universe, that's composed of multiple star systems, each with its own unique environment and different challenges. And here, players can explore those systems freely, encountering random events and engaging in different side quests. And some of those are certainly going to be encountering the massive monsters that are dotted throughout space. Now, whilst the graphics on this one certainly aren't up to 2024 standards of a AAA title, and maybe even a AA title, they nonetheless are functional and serve the purpose. Although that said, I do wish they did look a little bit better. Either way, Underspace is a game that does offer a mix of space simulation with trading, combat, exploration, and it's all set against a backdrop of elements of cosmic horror. Now, next up, we come to a rather interesting looking game. This one, I think, is called Qanga, or is it Qanga? I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but the game's described by the developers as an open world space exploration game and is currently in early access. Now, I've seen this one crop up a few times over the past year. I keep meaning to make a dedicated video on it, but haven't quite got round to this just yet. But, you know, this one is particularly interesting because not only does it feature some really nice looking planetary surfaces, but it also has full-on space exploration. You can get up into your spaceships, get into space seamlessly without any loading screens, and go land on another planet. Obviously, this is a feature that a lot of fans of space games really like to see, and it's something that not enough space games actually employ. At any rate, players take on the role of a cyborg who just so happens to be controlled by a human. And here you explore a space and planets as well, to collect items, complete missions, and survive in hostile environments. So as said, the exploration is seamless. It allows you to travel between planets and moons without any loading screens. Combat itself, it seems this takes place in different areas and can involve getting into a combat with monsters and other creatures. Scavenging and trading are also a thing. You'll find items to sell as well as items that can be used to upgrade. You'll also find some contracts and missions dotted throughout the game. That's supposed to be a big part of it. Also, base building is a thing, as are vehicles. So, looking at the checklist of this game, it seems like many people's dream space game. It's undoubtedly a very ambitious project, and something that is going to be very hard to complete and pull off, I'm sure. Currently, it is in early access, but that said, there is a demo available on this, So if you feel it looks a little bit too, well, if you're not sure what to make of this one, then why not check it out, because it doesn't cost you anything to give it a try. And finally, we come to NeoProxima, and this one is perhaps the game that really interests me the most, and that's because it reminds me a lot of the old 32-bit era of gaming, something I would expect to see back in the days of the Amiga, or maybe the very early days of the original PlayStation. Now, this is a text-based adventure game. It's set in an alternative history where the Cold War has extended into space exploration. The game is heavily narrative-driven, and it features a time loop mystery where players must explore and solve puzzles to progress through the story. So the alternative history part, the game is set in the year 1975, well, actually a year before I was born, and humanity has reached the stars thanks to an enigmatic alien civilization. The Cold War powers are competing for control over NeoProxima, a newly discovered frontier rich with alien technology. And that's pretty handy as you play a character who is heading a team of treasure hunters. So as you can see from the graphics on the screen here, they're not your typical game. Like I say, this, for me at least, is very much reminiscent of games from a previous era. And as such, you navigate a 3D isometric map. The idea is that you're driving a truck to explore various locations and ruins. Now, each day in the game begins with a limited amount of willpower and time to search for clues, and players have to decide on an objective for each loop, and this involves taking risks and learning from each attempt. So yeah, there are some RPG elements here as well. The game includes inventory management, dice rolls, hit points, and character stats. All of this influences the ultimate gameplay outcomes. One of the big focuses for the game is puzzle solving, and these are time-based puzzles, and you really have to master the loop to unlock the various different perks to ultimately make the overall task easier. So yeah, I really do like games that try different approaches. We're seeing something, well, it's pretty much all of the games in this video really are taking a different approach to what you see in the more traditional sense. These games are kind of going out and carving their own niche, and perhaps none more so than NeoProxima. This one came out back in March, again 2024, and yeah, this one also has a demo available, so yeah, try that one out. So there we have it, a whole bunch of games available in Steam's Space Exploration Fest. There's quite a few there to choose from, so like I said right at the start of the video, I decided to go for a few highlights from ones that have been released for just this year. Perhaps later on I'll have a look at videos from, or games rather, from previous years. At any rate, thanks for watching this video all the way through. There's another video linked on the screen right here, please do check it out. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.